There's this big bridge in Rome, okay? We have Valentine's Day coming up, and we're all obsessed with like this naked boy flying through the air, like shooting people with arrows, trying to like somehow bring love into people's relationships. When I was in Rome, I was thinking about these angels, because they're not holding these arrows, but rather they're all holding the instruments of Christ's death. One of the angels is holding a whip. Another one of the angels is holding a cross. One of the angels is holding a crown of thorns. One of the angels is holding a spear, right? Okay, so you have all these angels like holding these instruments of Christ's death. I think what they're trying to tell us, what this bridge is trying to tell us, is what authentic love requires. Love, we're talking about this integrity of action, what authentic love is founded in. We know, you probably heard this 5 bazillion times, but I think we can't hear it enough. Like, love is not this feeling or superficial emotion. Because there are times that you are not going to want to empty the dishwasher or change your daughter's diaper. There are times that you're not going to want to say, I love you. There are times when your wife might not look like the most beautiful woman on earth. And yet, love demands obligation. It involves act of the will. It involves changing the diaper for the 100th time, pouring the cup of coffee with your wife in bed. It involves energy, commitment, effort, strain, perseverance. It's not just pure emotion. And I think we as men need to know that first year priesthood's really tough. I've just discovered this. I've been a priest for 8 months, and like the honeymoon wears off real fast. I mean, I'm not married in a physical sense, an earthly sense, so I don't know if the honeymoon necessarily wears off as fast as it did with priesthood. But I mean, it's so easy to get consumed with a phrase like, I'm bored with this, or just whatever, or forget about this, or I'm not going to listen to this person at this point because it's too difficult, or I really want to watch this game, when I get home, and just because my wife or my child is suffering, I'd rather do something. Love, as a man, requires us to pick up the instruments of Christ's torture. It requires us to we're not angels, I'm not saying we're angels, but to grab, I just had that image of those angels on the bridge, to hold the image of our Lord's torture even when we don't feel like it. Because the crown of thorns is not easy to hold on to. The whip is not easy to hold on to. And yet, as men within the church, that's primordially our call, is to hold the instruments of Christ's death, because it's that sacrifice. It's that sacrifice, just like that sacrifice, which is going to bear life for the world. Okay? It's that sacrifice which is going to bear life for the world. Psalm 127, verse 1 through 5. You ready? Please. Mm-hmm.
Unless the Lord build a house, they labor in vain to build. Unless the Lord guard the city, vain is the guard to watch. It is vain for you to rise early, put off your rest at night. Sweet bread, earn thy heart's toil. All this God gives to his beloved sleep. Children who are a gift from the Lord, the fruit of the womb, reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, and the children born of youth. Blessed are they whose quivers are full. They will never be shamed, depending on the foes of the day.
I think we need to fill, as a man within the church, our quiver filled with these arrows of sacrifice. Filling our quiver with arrows of sacrifice, because that's what's going to allow us to win the battle, ultimately. It's It's going to allow us to win the battle. I think that each one of our lives, every relationship of love that we have, whether that's with our wife or with our children or with those that we work with or with the church or with people in the church, requires us to I love campfires. Think of this campfire, okay? Or say it's a little flame. Each one of those love relationships is this small, teeny little flame. And each day, we're called to take a little piece of wood and place it on that flame to keep it going. Like a little sacrifice. To take a little sacrifice and to place it on that spark, that little spark to keep it going. Just like to put an arrow into our quiver. And that's what sacrifice is. It's not all these big things, but it's that little thing. That little thing that's going to keep that flame going. It's like the life of a gentleman for the young men here. Like, what are the small little things that we do in sacrifice to offer ourselves for our bride, our beloved? Taking initiative, like men asking women out. Call of Catholic manhood, like the man initiating that gift, getting out of his shell, getting out of his fear of rejection, and asking the woman out. Asking her out. The other thing, I love to talk with married couples about like what they're doing on the weekends, and it's always like, well, I don't know. It's like, men, plan something. Plans, say, okay, this is what this is what we're going to do. Taking that initiative to offer that gift. Like on Valentine's Day, yeah, we have these cupids and stuff, and we talk about like boxes of chocolates and diamonds and flowers, and at a secular level, it can all seem rather meaningless. But at a deep level, she's worth it. Plan ahead. Plan ahead. I mean, I'm trying to discover how to do that with my bride, like with the church. Like, how do I plan ahead for everything that's happening in the church? But I just think that's such a crucial aspect. That's the small sacrifice. That's the quiver we put in, or the arrow we put in our quiver, the little piece of wood that we put on that little flicker of flame. Or opening the door, or pulling out the chair, or taking the worst, coldest seat at the restaurant, or letting her order first, or taking an interest in her when you really could care less. When you really could care less. It's like putting that arrow in the quiver. It's that sacrifice. It's adding to the flame, keeping conversation pure when it's going in an impure direction. Paying the bill without looking at it like, oh my gosh, we spent